Okay, let's talk a little bit about supplies. I think this is going to be really, really helpful. What I want to share with you guys is a couple different things that you can use for replacing hides. One of them is heat shrink tubing. It's my absolute all-time favorite. This is actually a bunch of white heat shrink tubing. It comes in a long roll. You can cut off pieces as you need it, or you can get it in a pre-cut in a plastic box. I got this on Amazon for about $7 US. Really cheap, and you can see I've used a ton of it. And it comes in all different colors. Now, heat shrink tubing shrinks. It shrinks when you put either a hot hair dryer on it or use a heat gun. So this is a heat gun. It's just a craft type heat gun. And what you do is you would cut this to size, so maybe cut it in half, and you would put Q-tips in here. And then what you would do is actually use the hair dryer or the heat gun just to shrink it up just a little bit to keep the Q-tips from falling out. Now, this is in electrical supplies, so these are actually what electricians use to wrap wires. So they put their wires in their heat shrink tubing, and then they put the heat gun on, and it wraps it up, and it contains a wire. So this is actually some of my favorite go-to stuff. You can get these, once you put Q-tips in these things and you shrink them up a little bit, you can get these into every little crevice you can think of. The other thing is that when you're trying to hide it, what I use is, Quake Hold. So let me show you what I have in this little kit here. So this is actually a couple different things that you can use to take that, the straws, like you could use regular straws, you could use heat shrink tubing, and this is actually Quake Hold. So I have a bunch of Quake Hold in here, which is earthquake putty. Earthquake putty is reusable. You can see I've used this quite a bit. I've taken it off and on the tins, and I put it back in my little kit here. It's kind of gummy, but it doesn't hurt any of the surfaces. And you can put this on wood, you can put it on plastic, you can put it on just about anything. It's not going to hurt anything. It's going to keep that tin, like if you have a tin that you want it, that doesn't, and you're trying to put it on something that's not magnetic, or if you want to place heat shrink tubing. The other thing that you could do is you could use glue dots, just plain old glue dots. Glue dots work as well, especially if you're using heat shrink tubing. That works great. So I just want to show you one more thing, just because it's just eye candy. I just got a new shipment from Canine Nosework Source, which is actually my favorite place to go for supplies. And this is what I got from her. So I got a ton of, these are really, really cool. You can see these tins, they're different colors. That way they can be hidden in plain view from the dogs. I love the red ones. Dogs actually can't see red and green very well. And so you could actually see the hide, but the dog doesn't see it as well. Now, this is actually kind of neat. I need to get more of these. She sent this to me as kind of a freebie. It's a metal straw. A metal straw. It's got a magnet in it. It will actually stick to things. It's kind of neat. It looks like a little lip balm container that she's put a magnet on. That's got a magnet on it. So that's kind of cool. Then I have, it looks like the magnet might have come off of that one, so I have to take a look at that. So this one, these are just plain old tins. I like the 8-hole tins because you don't need to age as much, and it's got a magnet in it. So those are kind of fun. But I'm really, really I really love my heat shrink tubing. If you have a dog that retrieves tins, by the way, guys, try the heat shrink tubing because you can get it in there. You can affix it. You can keep it from, from the dog peeling off the hides. Tins are really good for dogs that don't grab and retrieve hides. So if you have a dog that retrieves a hide, they're going to grab the tin and they're going to put it in their mouth, and you definitely don't want to do that. Not to mention your tins can get a little crunched, and then you may or may not be able to get them open again, which is kind of not cool. So again, I use the heat shrink tubing a lot. I use the Quake Hold, which is earthquake putty. I use glue dots. I use straws. I don't like straws as much because you can't necessarily close each side of it, and it's easy for the Q-tips to fall out. And again, this is just a heat gun. It's really inexpensive. I use this. It's just from a craft shop. It's just a heat gun. Or you can use a hairdryer on high. Hairdryer, not an ionic hairdryer, doesn't work as well. So hopefully this was helpful, and I will chat with you guys later.